What you're becoming involved with, just like in the movie, is criminal activity. I got sucked into it.
What you were doing was leading to only a few options and none of them were good.
I would never have thought that I could have ever gotten in trouble for it.
I think if someone was to look at you, Sohail, they would say like, wow, here's a guy who's like super polished, super professional, super well dressed. But that's not the case. Is that right?
No, that's not the case. Growing up, I had actually a really good life. My dad did very well. We lived in an affluent community. And unfortunately, life took a turn for my family, which created circumstances to the point where I felt when I was 18, I was kind of on my own. My parents were going through a divorce. They left me in this big house by myself. And what happens? You have friends. I felt very lonely. I invited my friends over. And I got mixed up with the wrong crowd. Nightclub lifestyle, the people you're becoming involved with, just like in the movie, is criminal activity. And I got sucked into it. It was the worst thing to ever happen to me and the best thing to ever happen to me. I spent 2 years of my life away in prison. And I say that now because I feel like going through what I've gone through, I can actually help people and get them to understand that life's always going to have challenges, but that doesn't determine who you are. And as human beings, as people, part of our job is to take these challenges and overcome them in a positive way. And when you do that, you can show somebody how you did it. So then when they're going through that same challenge, they have somebody that can help them through it and know that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. I really didn't think I was doing anything wrong, truly. As I said, I'm not an angel. I've done a lot of things wrong. This was one thing I just didn't think I would ever get in trouble for. And at the time, there was mandatory sentencing guidelines. And so they sentence you based on what they think that you had in your possession, right, et cetera, for any controlled substance, which is what I got in trouble for. And originally I got boot camp. And it was going to be 6 months boot camp, 6 months halfway house, 6 months house arrest. So total of 18 months in somewhat of a confined area. The problem is that having never been in trouble, unfortunately, I became very suicidal. I got to the point where I attempted suicide, but it didn't work. But at the time, so my charge at the time wasn't as bad. I just had to, I had to go to boot camp. But for me, I've never been in trouble, so it was the worst thing that's ever happened to me. So I thought to myself, because I was going to self-report, meaning that I would fly to Pennsylvania, just turn myself in to the boot camp and go through my boot camp. Well, I had this bright idea, which is, I'll end it, and then I don't have to go, and I don't have to worry about booking a plane ticket to Pennsylvania. So silly me, what I did was I attempted it, and it didn't work. So I didn't turn myself in, which was on a Friday. That Monday, I had to call my attorney and tell him that I didn't show up to my prison sentence, my boot camp sentence. And so what ended up happening was that boot camp sentence turned out to be a 2-year sentence because I didn't turn myself in. And then I had to go through the federal prison system. I saw the worst of the worst. And as good as it can get, I think I had a chance to deal with that as well. So a total of 18 months in the federal prison system. And then I had 6 months of halfway house, which I finished up in 3 months and, then was on parole. And it was the best thing to ever happen to me. It was, miracles come in different forms, right? Looking back, my charges actually weren't that bad for what they charged me with. I ordered supplements from a bodybuilding website and I never got caught with anything. I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. What ended up happening was I was getting phone calls from federal agents. I thought it was someone screwing with me. I'm like, they're like, this is so-and-so from the DEA. We want to talk to you. You're not in trouble. And I would just, I would say something and hang up because I couldn't believe it, right? I'm like, this is someone playing a game on me. Until I got a phone call from my attorney. And he said, hey, you need to come to my office and need to talk to you. And I said, why? And he goes, well, the feds want to indict you because you've been buying drugs from these 2 guys. So, I was in shock. I mean, my throat fell into my stomach. I couldn't believe it because I took it as a joke until then. So I went and talked to him, and essentially what was happening was the agency, the federal agency, busted these two gentlemen that were running the website, which was called Best Buy Supplements. They sold bodybuilding supplements, and they also sold some things to help with like fat reduction and growth hormone production, et cetera. And so they busted the website, and then they indicted 118 people in 40 different states, and I was one of them. And again, couldn't believe I was in trouble. Never had someone come to my house. I was never arrested. What they did was they tracked the shipping records over the course of 4 years and indicted me off the shipping records, the UPS shipping records.
It seems like at that stage in your life, there was like this unwillingness to accept like reality in a way, right? Where you were doing these things, you were running with the wrong crowd. And even as it started to progress all the way up until the point where you didn't show up, it was like this unwillingness to face what was true.
You know, very good perception of what I'm telling you. It was to the point where I didn't believe that I was really in trouble until the morning I turned myself into downtown Chicago. It's called the Metropolitan Correctional Center, the MCC. And when they put me in a holding cell and shut the door, you know, the iron bars, and you grab them and you can, there's actually a hallway in the window where you can see out into downtown. And I realized at that moment, like I'm not getting out. It took that much to realize it's, you know, and unfortunately I'm sure in things that so many people go through, they don't realize. They think they have time, or they think that it's never going to happen to them. And then once it does, it's too late.
Yeah. And I think that's true in like any kind of area in life. You know, I think when you're young and very like impressionable and you have a lot of things going on and dealing with emotions, all it takes is getting, you know, we talk a lot about how proximity is power. And in this instance, you just got proximity to people that were influencing you in a way that would not serve you. And as far as like this willingness to accept or acknowledge, whether it's, you know, your physical body, your spiritual life, your financial life, your relationship life, that if I'm engaging in behaviors that with a high degree of probability lead to a specific destination, imagining that that's not going to happen is not a realistic kind of strategy or approach. And the good news is you just had the good fortune of that being stopped early.
Yeah.
Right. Because you could have went down a whole, I could be talking. I mean, first of all, we wouldn't be speaking to each other. Second of all of the people that you've helped, you know, in your career and in business and in real estate and with your agents and everything, none of that would have taken place. So my question to you is how do you think this happened for you? Like, how did this serve you? So
I'll give you, number one, when at the point that I did go away and I served my time, I thought before going in, I had so many friends. In there, I realized that I can count my true friends on one hand. Being in there, I met a lot of people that were in, you know, like couldn't believe, just like myself, that they were in prison for simple things like one person just was wired $21 million from Italy to Michigan, very prominent family he was from. And they gave him 2 years in jail because he didn't pay taxes on it. It's, you know, and he says it was a mistake. I don't know whether it is, but there's people such as that, white collar crime. And then I met someone who, so I went through transit, which is I started at the MCC, and then I went to Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Atlanta, USP, Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, USP. I ended up in Westtown, West Virginia. It was actually a place that they called the Kennedy Center because the Kennedys owned it. And that was in Westtown, West Virginia. Morgantown, West Virginia. But going through that transit, you know, I was very green because I've never been in trouble. So I had to make friends. And so making friends was playing cards with a gentleman who was tattooed from top to bottom with it wasn't teardrops. I'm sorry. It was a white guy who had lightning bolts. So he was in the Aryan Brotherhood, I'm sure. And we were playing spades. Spades is very popular. And I said to him, I'm like, man, his name was Bill. I said, man, Bill, I have 2 years. 2 years. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I said, how much time do you have? And he looked at me and leaned in and he said, I have 4 life sentences, dog. And I said, ooh, lesson learned, don't ever talk about a little bit of time, because people have generations of life that they're going to be spending in there.
So then you do that, you have that experience, it radically changes you, really kind of saves your life in a way, even though it doesn't seem that way.
Right. It did though.
But it did. And then you got out and you're like super appreciative of time, of like simple things, like going for walks, like having the freedom to be able to do what you want with your physical body and, you know, hang out with who you want and eat what you want when you want. And you're also very, very ambitious. So talk a little bit about at that point, because you're an entrepreneur at heart, like what did you start to do?
So, you know, in there, I met a lot of amazing people, made some incredible relationships. And in doing so, I met a father and son who were in there. They're from Ohio, and incredible story. You know, they were put in there for, basically, they found a way to create their own lottery. But I won't get into detail on that. But very, very wealthy people. They talked to me a lot, became good friends with them. The son, 23 years old, was doing very well in real estate. And then so I'd spend time with him. I'd pick his brain, and I'd ask a lot of questions. And so he would tell me about working at a title company and doing title searches, mortgages, flipping properties, etc. I didn't have any idea of what he was telling me, other than the fact that I had my notes. And then when I get out, I was going to start researching it. So that's all. Because I was never really a real estate person. So when I did get out, I didn't know what I was going to do. Another friend of mine, who was like a big brother to me at the time, said that his wife was doing mortgages. And he's like, you know, you should do mortgages. We had a mutual friend who was a young guy. I think he was 21. He opened up a mortgage company. And so that's where I went to. And it was an hour drive for me to get there. I didn't know anything about mortgages. So I sat for 3 months. I sat not making a single check. Didn't know what I was doing. But sticking around and being a fly on the wall, you eventually start to pick things up.
That's awesome. So you figured out the kind of mortgage aspect of the business. And then what caused you to then make the kind of jump or leap into residential resale?
Yeah, great question. So I got my broker's license while I was working for this gentleman's mortgage company. And then I had one client. And then an opportunity came up. So by that time, I had probably done a couple different refis or finances and purchases. I wasn't really working on the broker side. And then a mutual friend introduced me to what my future partner in business at that time would be. And we opened up, he had a mortgage company that he was in the midst of opening. He needed help. We partnered up. And so then we had a mortgage company. Fast forward to 2007, things start changing, right? And so eventually what happened was I sold my shares back to him. I just wanted to get out of it. It's not like I made any money. And I started focusing on the real estate side. Why? Because we're on the mortgage side. When something goes wrong with, you know, it doesn't close on time, you're the one to blame. So that was a little bit frustrating. But the second thing was it got to the point where the prospective clients that we were working with were rate shopping so much that we were fighting to keep 1%. Where the real estate agents, I'm like, man, look at this. You know, I'm fighting and struggling, and we're working on financing, and we're struggling to fight for 1% of their transaction. And then I would see the real estate brokers. I'm like, these guys just show a couple houses. They're guaranteed 2.5%. They're done. I'm in the wrong business. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like the mortgage, because I know, you know, I started in 2006. So our kind of time of entry into the business is similar. And in 2007-8, mortgage industry starts to change dramatically. And you were noticing from like just like a profitability perspective, you're like, man, we're here trying to create miracles to get 1%. And here these agents are doing deals. So I'm wondering, you had a lot of kind of technical knowledge of processing transactions, you know, from the mortgage perspective. What was your experience when you got into real estate? Did you just hit the ground running and you were off to the races? Or was that like a whole nother thing you had to learn?
You know, we were, because when I still had my mortgage company when I started really using my broker's license. And then we got into some condo conversions, which did really well because we pretty much listed them. We brought the buyers through who were investors. We were financing them, and we were getting a piece of the profit. And then I slowly transitioned because the market crashed, right? I ended up partnering up with some other gentlemen in a company that it was a real estate firm, but given the time when the market crashed, we were focused on rentals. And then sales started picking up again. So I said, you know what? I want to focus more on sales. I brought a small group of people. We shut down our company. We brought a small group of people over to a big brand name, you know, a well-known brokerage. But I was still stuck on like trying to do rentals. And the funny thing about rentals is that there's not a lot of loyalty. It's a lot of running around. I know I needed help. And I was on a phone call with one of my friends. Just, you know, I needed an ear, someone to listen to what I had to say and get things off my chest. And he basically told me about a real estate coach. And he's like, you got to call this guy. And I'll tell you, Aaron, like the value of a good coach in one phone call, that coach helped me to decide if I should shut our company down and merge or if I should, you know, keep going. And it was a 10-minute call. He gave me the right advice. After that, he taught me I never really prospected before. So he taught me how to prospect. He taught me how to provide better service, how to manage my schedule better. And then, you know, slowly he tried to help me build a team as well. I just really quick, I'll tell you, at the time I was so hungry. I would wake up super early, work out, do my morning routine, prospect, go out, take clients out in the afternoon, and I would come back. Maybe it was 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and everybody that I talked to on the phone, most people would give me their email, so I would do an introduction video with a Kodak Smart Touch, you know, and a little remote, upload it to my computer, send them this nice email. I mean, I didn't go to bed till midnight, and I would do that for, you know, I probably talked to 10 people a day on average. So it took me a few hours every night to do that.
I love that hustle. I guess my question to you is, because you recently made a change and you decided to change companies. You partnered with me and EXP at Elite Builders, and I'm super excited and kind of privileged, you know, to be in proximity to people like you and to be in partnership with people like you. So talk a little bit about, after being so successful in real estate, what caused you to look at models and say, like, you know what, I think this is the ecosystem that's going to allow me to really do what it is that I want to do and build what I want to build?
Yeah. Because obviously you had contributed so much for me to change my thinking. I called you, right? And I said, so what was so impactful for you that you would get out of your shares of Keller Williams and the involvement in the title company and go to EXP? And I remember you said, well, I can spend the time with you to talk about it, but I don't want to waste my time because it might take me a long time. You're probably going to have a lot of questions. Are you sure you're ready for it? And I said, yeah. And so when you told me about it, right, just like any skeptical person, I'm like, it sounds too good to be true. And then you sent me an email. I watched it. The biggest impact that I had was the ability to have multiple streams of income and to have a platform where there's so much collaboration, so much learning. And there's like Lars, right? Lars has done some amazing things. You've done some amazing things. The fact that being able to go to a brokerage and I'm trying to scale thanks to you and understanding that I don't want to be the ultimate technician, right? There's this glorified top producer in real estate where everyone wants to be the top producer, but no one wants to be like, hey, you might be the top producer and I'm nobody, but I'll tell you what, I work a couple days a week and my bank account is very significant, right? So once I learned about EXP, it was just hard. I couldn't go back to the traditional brokerage. Here's why. Up until actually you had me read the book E-Myth, and you got me to think different. And I remember that when you saw my schedule, I thought it was so cool. Like you always say, right? And then you put me in my place by saying you're a bad dad. You know, you don't spend good time with your wife. You're always working. And you said it with so many words, but it had such an impact on me because I'm like, man, this guy's right. In the past, everybody was like, oh, wow, man, you're a grinder. You're a hustler. I want to be like you, to the point where when you said it, I was like, yeah, you know what? He's right. I don't spend a lot of time with my kids. Not like I should. I don't give my wife the time that she deserves, my kid the time that my kids deserve. And so what started happening was, as I talked to you and you got me to think different. I realized that being in a traditional brokerage is good for the individual agent to a certain extent. But once you start to think like a business person and you start to think of systems and finding what are the best systems, not the systems that the brokerage provides you with, but what if there's a better CRM? What if there's some really good funnels that you can buy and implement on your own website? To the fact that I really don't need the brokerage. I just need to brand myself and be in an environment that really supports the branding of your business. That's when everything starts to change. And you realize that certain brokerages, they're great brokerages, but they're just not the right fit for everybody. And I think for business people that are trying to scale and are trying to do bigger things and thinking a lot bigger, you realize that the brokerages could actually hold you back.
I remember us having conversations and like I share with you, hey brother, once you see this, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
A couple things come up for me. One, I appreciate you sharing that story because I'm aware, when I've had the good fortune of being in proximity to you and, sharing some things with you. And I remember that call distinctly. And your wife was on that call and other people were on that call.
Ladder call with us, right?
And you were expecting me to be like, yeah, this is fantastic. This is wonderful. And I was just like, hey man, this sucks. Like it was just silence.
Yeah.
And I was sharing with you like, yeah, like traditional success in our business is working 80 hours a week, 70 hours a week. When anything I say yes to is something else I have to say no to. And it's not that there's anything wrong with transactions. They're great. We could serve a lot of people. We can help a lot of people. We can raise a lot of income. The challenge is that a lot of people don't take the time to take some of that money and buy back time. And right. The challenge is that there's no kind of like off ramp. And as agents, we actually don't end up owning anything. So we do all the work. It's like a landlord, where the owner owns the land, the serfs work the land.
Right.
You've made that decision now. So what are you most excited about now that you have partnered with EXP and you have, the kind of value stack available to you and the proximity that's available to you?
God, let me just take a second to digress to think of there's so much. Well, the first thing that I want to say is when I prospect, I'm actually getting better responses because the company that I was previously with is so big to the point where when I'm talking to someone who wants to buy or sell, they're getting bombarded with people the old brokerage name is constantly said. And so what happens is people are getting a little frustrated. I come in with a different approach. And of course, I'm not the same company. It's strange because they're more welcoming. I think that the company doesn't matter in that aspect. I've never called and said, I'm from X company. And they said, oh my God, come list my home. I've been waiting for you to call. It doesn't happen. Nor do I have any leads that come through because I'm associated with any company. Yeah. But because I've been able to now, with your help and being under the umbrella that we're in, not only can I start plugging my team members into the training that's provided, being under the elite builders, but at the same time, there's so much collaboration, the masterminds, the training. There's more training than I can see anybody having the ability to do in one day. And no traditional brokerages offer this kind of training. This is the same type of training that I received when I was investing $2,000 to $5,000 a month. And with the XP, it's all out there. It's free. I've never seen a company where everybody's giving back in collaboration to help uplift other people in that brokerage. Typically, they're discreet because they see each other as competition.
Agreed, 100%. And if I'm going to spend all of my time and energy and effort pushing a brand into the marketplace, it might as well be mine.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love that, brother. And I love that you're so excited about what it is that you're doing. I really do believe that this platform is like built for someone like you. And I'm super excited for not only to be in partnership with you, to see how much of an impact that you'll have, not only because you've had an enormous impact on the industry already, but also, with people who get into your kind of ecosystem, because you can help them a lot and add tremendous amounts of value. So if people want to find you, if they want to ask questions, if they need help in any way, where should they go to connect with you?
They can find me on Instagram at Sohali Real Estate. My email is Sohail at Sohail Real Estate, spelled Sohail at Sohail Real Estate. Yeah, and I'm sure they can find my phone number anywhere online. So I'm always willing to help. I'm willing to more now so than ever. Not that I'm more willing to give back, but the thing that I found is that because you introduced me to EXP to some extent, and I was stubborn about at first looking into it. And then when I finally saw it, it's like, how come these other agents need to see this? And so, yeah, I mean, I think people need to kind of take a step back and say, remove the ego and think, what do I want 1 year from now, 3 years, 5 years, right? Do I want to be chugging along and, finding my next client? Or do I want to be building a business that can become self-sustainable, self-sufficient, where you have a team of people, and then you focus on the higher level things instead of being constantly grinding? Because the grinding, your ability to grind doesn't last forever. You're going to get to a point.
Nor does your desire.
Yes, right. Well, that's probably why the ability diminishes, because your desire diminishes as well.
That's exactly right. And the way I heard it recently is like, our eyes actually don't see. It's our brains that see.
True.
It just uses our eyes as a tool to be able to see. So if my mind is blind to the possibility, then my eyes will be blind to the opportunity. There are a couple skills that are exceptionally valuable. The first is being able to learn things very quickly. The second is having flexibility in thinking. It's a willingness to change your mind. And I know that can be difficult because the way that money has an addictive quality, and because of it, we get addicted to the way that we receive it. So it can be difficult to let go of a particular way of earning money. I'm also aware that, we have a natural tendency as humans to be very afraid of change and something different and new. At the same time, I know for you, as we examine and kind of look at, and again, I really appreciate your authenticity and willingness to share and kind of open up. I know a lot of people will be inspired by your story because there always is light at the end of the tunnel, and you are an example of that. All along the way, you were changing your mind about things. All along the way. Sometimes it took longer. Sometimes it took a real stiff reality to smack you in the face to change your mind about something.
Yeah.
Sometimes it took someone kind of in a polite way, aggressively letting you know, hey, the way that you're thinking is not accurate. Like,
yes,
you think this is cool, but it's not cool. At the same time, you're receptive to changing, and for that reason, you're always evolving. So I want to acknowledge you for that, brother. Again, it's a privilege and a pleasure to be in proximity to you and your lovely wife and your team, and really excited for the partnership and really excited to work together and grow together.
Me too. And
I appreciate you, man, and I look forward to reconnecting soon.
We're going to do big things. Appreciate you, Aaron.
Yeah, talk to you soon.